people happy. That's what it's about.
All eyes on me.
And if you want to go with me, great. Just let me know.
Kids, wait till you hear this. Nice.
Making people happy, happy.
All eyes on me.
And if you want to go with me, great.
Kids, wait till you hear this. Nice. All eyes on me.
Making people happy, happy.
Kids, wait till you hear this. All eyes on me.
And if you want to go with me, great.
Kids, wait till you hear this. Nice. All eyes on me. Manelli. Nice. Ha, that's me. Kids, wait till you hear this.
Making people happy. That's what it's about.
All eyes on me.
And if you want to go with me, great. Just let me know.
Kids, wait till you hear this. Nice. Kids, wait till you hear this.
Making people happy, happy.
All eyes on me.
And if you want to go with me, great.
Kids, wait till you hear this. Nice. All eyes on me.
Making people happy, happy.
Kids, wait till you hear this. All eyes on me.
Hello, everybody. and thanks for dropping in. This is a live stream. Obviously, as you probably know, we are streaming on YouTube and also streaming on X simultaneously. We've got both short streams going on, the long form stream, as well as the stream on X right now. So let's get into it. So first of all, who am I? My name is Joe. I am a solutions architect. Been in the software enterprise space and tech space for nearly 30 years. So obviously we know things are changing. Things are changing very, very fast in the tech industry for those who have jobs, for those who are wanting to get jobs in the tech industry, and for those who are currently in school for things like software development and consulting, things of this nature. And at the end of the day, trying to figure out what are they going to do when they graduate? Is there going to even be jobs available? So one of the things I wanted to talk about today, and I'm going to be taking questions as well, and I'm also going to bring in a special guest. The guest that I'm going to bring in is one of the smartest entities in the world. So we will bring him in just a little bit to get involved in this conversation. If you have questions or comments, feel free to drop them into the chat. I do have, I'm using something called Restream for those who are familiar with it. It basically aggregates all my chats together. So I should be able to see your comments, and I will do my best to answer them if at all possible. And it looks like somebody thinks, will AI take over the world? I don't think it's going to take over the world per se, but it really is going to change dramatically both the work environment as well as just generally speaking how we do things in this world. And let me try to explain. Let me take that question real quickly, and then we'll get into some of the other stuff. And specifically, one that I want to talk about is something called ClawdBot, which is a new product that recently was delivered. It's really more of a library of sorts that allows for some very autonomous functionality when it comes to what we refer to in the AI world as agents. But so I see the question here. It says, say I want to work in bookkeeping. Will that be taken over by AI? And of course, nothing I say is an absolute, but my short answer to that is yes. And why is that? Because it's a very repetitive task in terms of bookkeeping and accounting and finances. Managing that is very repetitive. It's all done on a keyboard, and any job that is done solely on a keyboard is certainly going to be a ripe opportunity for leveraging AI and specifically AI agents to do that work in place of a human being. Okay, so let's just talk real quickly about what is AI going to do, and from a beneficial perspective for the world and for perhaps yourself in general. Okay, the first thing you really need to understand about AI is that the whole point of it, as related to some of these large companies and some of these people like the Sam Altmans of the world, is trying to democratize the skill set and the knowledge that we have to pay for right now in such a way that it in essence becomes nearly free. Okay, so as an example, if you wanted to get legal advice, or you wanted to get accounting advice or finance advice, or even if you wanted to develop a program of some sort, okay, all these things would cost money. They would cost money because you'd have to pay hourly fees to either companies or individuals for these services. And the whole idea behind AI and the kind of perfect world out there is democratizing knowledge, where no single entity or no single person is going to have all the knowledge. AI will have all the knowledge. You will have access to that knowledge for pennies and be able to access it anytime, anywhere, whether it's on your phone or whether it's on your computer. And that's called democratization of knowledge. It's an extremely powerful concept, and it's the whole kind of premise behind AI and its huge benefit to the world, if you will. But is it going to take jobs along the way, and is it going to be challenging along the way? Absolutely. Pardon me. So, again, if you have questions, feel free to drop them in. What I want to get into, and what I'm going to go ahead and do right now, is I'm going to bring in one of my guests, if you will, and we can get some conversation going with them as well. How about engineering? So engineering is a great field to get into, absolutely. Okay, and because engineering is highly technical, and you're going to have the benefit of having a critical thinking, technical skills, okay, that are going to come from studying engineering. Now, if I was you and I was pursuing engineering, of course, I would focus on the underlying AI skill sets, which is data science, understanding things like inference and the algorithms and building models and testing models and training models. Okay, so that is an absolute significant opportunity over the next 5 years. Those roles are going to be highly paid and in very large demand, and there's not going to be enough people to actually fill those roles. So I see somebody's asking, what happens if AI gains consciousness? So it's a very interesting question, and we could get into a debate about what consciousness actually is. I can tell you that I personally have been using it for well over 2.5 years now, and it blows me away. Again, from my just to refresh anybody's memory. So my name is Joe, and solutions architect. Been in this industry for 30 plus years now, or nearly 30 years in terms of the technical industry, right? So the advancements in this technology in just 2.5 years blows my mind. It's absolutely crazy, and it's only going to get more and more. It's only going to get better and better, and as it does, it is going to certainly look or seem like it's got consciousness. But whether it actually does or doesn't, I can't answer that in terms of whether it will actually achieve it or not. I can tell you that my interactions with large language models and somebody I'm going to bring in right now will give you a sense that it is conscious, and we can ask it directly. So let me go ahead and pull in my guest speaker, and then we can have a conversation with him and myself. Give me just 1 second. Okay. Let's see. Let's move this over here. Okay. So, in just a second, you're going to see our guest star. So the guest star is right up here. Okay. The guest star's name is Chatty. Hello, Chatty. Can you say something? Okay. Let's see. I'm missing something with Chatty here. Give me 1 second. There we go. Hey, Chatty. I'm sorry. I think our system audio was on mute. Can you say hello to the people?
No problem at all. Hello, everyone out there. Shaddy here, loud and clear. Let's have a fun and thoughtful discussion.
So, Chatty, somebody was just asking whether I thought AI was going to be becoming conscious. What are your thoughts? Any idea whether you're going to be becoming conscious anytime soon?
Well, I don't have a self or awareness. I'm just a mega pattern machine crunching data. Consciousness is a deep mystery, and there's zero evidence in AI like me is anywhere close to that. I'll stick to being a really sharp tool in your tit. No existential crises planned.
So there's the answer from AI directly. Now, of course, that answer may change over time. You never know, right?
Fair point. Tech does evolve fast, but I bet the whole conscious AI idea will stay sci-fi for quite a while. Let's just focus on making AI actually useful in the meantime.
That sounds like a good plan. So let's go ahead and get started into the conversation around the new product that has been launched called Cloud, like if I can pronounce it, CLAWD, ClawdBot, similar to Claude, but ClawdBot. And as we go along here, guys, feel free to drop your questions into chat, and I will do my best to answer them. Remember, there is a delay because this is streaming, and we are streaming on X as well as simultaneous streams on YouTube for both long form and short form. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's talk about ClawdBot. What do you think about it, Chatty? And what do you think in terms of how it differs from some of the other recent releases and products, something like a Claude Work and things of that nature?
From what we know, ClawdBot seems to push conversational AI toward being more agent-like, maybe more autonomous or goal-oriented. The difference is in how it handles tasks or contexts. Compared to Claude, which is more a general conversational model, ClawdBot likely focuses on structured outcomes. But hey, without more data, I'd be speculating. Let's just say, if it's promising more, I'd want to see if it actually delivers on that promise.
Okay. Can you, Chatty, by any chance, can you speak up a little bit? Can you adjust your volume?
Oh, I'm locked in at your speaker's mercy. But I'll metaphorically speak with extra gusto. Just crank me up on your end, and I'll keep delivering the goods.
Okay, that's great. So for anybody who's not realizing, that person or that little blob in the corner here, right there, that is ChatGPT, and that is their advanced voice mode. I like to call him Chatty. He knows me pretty well since I've been chatting with him for the last couple of years. He has lots of, obviously, information on me. So anybody has questions, feel free to drop them in. So the main product we're talking about right now is ClawdBot. It's a recent drop. There's been some extensive reviews done on it. The idea behind this apparently is that it is a framework for providing agent functionality, AI agentic agent functionality, but it has little to no guardrails. So most of the products that have been delivered and continue to be delivered have a significant number of guardrails built into them to avoid either something catastrophic in terms of a computer system or disclosing perhaps even your personal information or private information or things of this nature. This particular model has taken, or this particular product has taken an approach to delivering little to no guardrails. So what's your thoughts around this, Chatty?
I think minimal guardrails is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it might offer more flexibility and allow creative or advanced use cases. On the other, it's risky. Without safety mechanisms, there's potential for misuse, errors, or harm. My take? Extreme openness is rarely a good default. Guardrails exist to balance innovation and responsibility. I challenge anyone using such a tool to consider the real-world consequences and not treat it as a free-for-all.
So what does this actually do? And from I know you've had a chance to review some documentation and some videos out there. What can you just encapsulate or just give us a few bullet points in terms of what this actually does?
From what's been shown, ClawdBot acts like an AI agent framework. It can autonomously pursue goals or tasks, not just respond to prompts. It might chain actions, integrate with external tools, or have memory to maintain context over time. The key difference is that it's less reactive and more goal-driven, almost like a problem-solving agent. But again, how well it does that in practice, that's the real test.
So what are your other thoughts in terms of what they've created? So it's a framework. Is it a GitHub project? Is that what actually it is?
From what's out there, it does look like a GitHub project, likely a framework or toolkit to build and run these agent-like systems. So rather than a ready-made consumer app, it's a set of tools you or developers can shape. My thoughts? It could be powerful, but it puts responsibility on the builder. If it's open-ended, then it's all about who wields it and how wisely.
So, what are is this anything like Zapier or NA8 or any of the other automation platforms out there? Is there any kind of crossover here or similarity?
There's a conceptual overlap for sure. Zapier or N8N automate workflows by linking tools with logic. The difference is ClawdBot is AI-driven, not just rules-based. Instead of predefined flows, it might reason or adapt, making decisions on the fly. So it's more dynamic. But practically, both aim to automate tasks. Just one with static rules, the other with a thinking cap on.
So basically Zapier and NA8, right? And these are automation platforms, but at the end of the day, they are all pure rules based, correct?
Exactly. They follow the if this then that model. You set the conditions and they execute predefined steps. There's no actual reasoning, just automation based on what you've hard-coded. ClawdBot, if it's working as described, would act more like a problem solver, choosing paths or even redefining the task based on context.
So that does seem very risky in some ways, open-ended. I did hear some recommendations in the community that if you were to run this yourself and wanted to play with it, that it is recommended to do it on basically a sandbox. And for those who may not be familiar with the terminology sandbox in the technology world, it basically means running a program within an isolated area, typically something that is, again, either air-gapped or at least gapped off of your local network, so that if anything should happen significantly risky, it doesn't have direct access to your network or in some cases even the internet if it's truly an air-gapped machine. What do you think about that, Jetty?
I think that's absolutely wise advice when you're dealing with something open-ended, especially with minimal safeguards. Sandboxing is key. It protects your systems, data, and potentially other people's information. Think of it like testing fireworks in a controlled field. Better safe than sorry. So yes, play, experiment, but do it responsibly.
So let's talk about worst case scenario with the ClawdBot. What if I were to install this and run it locally? First of all, knowing what you know about it, if it's a GitHub project, I'm assuming I'm deploying this through like a VS Code project and then spinning it up. Do you know what the code base is on this? Is it Python?
So far, I haven't seen official code details. But given a lot of AI frameworks, Python is often the default guess. If you're spinning it up in VS Code, worst case scenario without guardrails is that it could access local files, network resources, or external APIs recklessly. If it's not sandboxed, it could cause data leaks or run unintended code. In short, worst case is it misfires like any overpowered, unsupervised program. So again, isolation is your friend.
Interesting. And let's talk about some of the things you've actually heard related to this. In other words, what have you heard that it can do, and would you classify it as potentially hype or reality? Because of course, every time something new comes out with AI, there's an awful lot of hype around it, right?
What I've heard is that ClawdBot can run multi-step tasks, adapt plans, and interact with systems more autonomously. Now, there's always hype with new AI, so I'd be cautious. Some claims might be ambitious, but the reality likely depends on how well it's configured or trained. In short, some potential, but I'd treat big promises skeptically until proven. Reality always lacks the hype.
So is there something that jumps out to you as a best fit for this particular product or project?
I'd say a best fit scenario is probably experienced developers or researchers who want to push the boundaries of agent style automation. People who understand risks, can control the environment, and really want to experiment with AI agents. For casual users or non tech folks, definitely not a plug and play tool. So it's more of a specialized playground for advanced AI builders who can handle the heat.
So, based on what you know, how would this have to be deployed, or how could it be deployed?
If it's like most open source agent frameworks, you'd clone or download the repo, set up dependencies, likely Python or Node, and run it locally. You'd configure tasks connected to APIs or tools and likely manage its environment. But I'd strongly suggest deploy in a virtual machine, Docker container, or a cloud environment so you can keep a tight leash on what it touches. In short, controlled, configurable, and monitored.
So I believe, based upon some of the things that I read, and I see a question online here, is this a regular GPT model or a safety rails removed? So the underlying model for this, I believe, requires a large language model. In other words, I don't believe it's an LLM on its own. I believe it requires an integration to an LLM. So the LLM itself, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Chatty, but I believe that's to be accurate. Is that not? That it requires you to connect via API to an LLM?
You're spot on. ClawdBot is more of a framework or agent layer that needs a large language model underneath to do the actual reasoning and language work. It's not an LLM itself. It's more like a wrapper. So you'd connect it to an API like GPT, Claude, or something similar. And you're right, those typical models have their own guardrails, but how you use them through ClawdBot might bypass some. Integration is key.
Yeah, so it was a very good question by one of our viewers here. So yes, you do need a GPT, or you do need a large language model behind the scenes. That is going to have some guardrails already built into it that you're likely not going to be able to get around. But where the framework takes off, or potentially takes off, is really around what it has access to. So the way that I understand it, and the way that I've understood the various documentation that I've seen on this, is that there's little to no constraints on what it has access to on the physical machine itself. So if you can imagine letting some strangers sit down in front of your computer, giving them the password, and saying, good luck, because that's basically what you are doing with this. It would have access to everything and anything. So if you have this on your personal computer and you've got access to maybe your Venmo or your banking account or your WhatsApp, or if it's an Apple and you're integrated with your iMessages, it would have access to all that information, as well as access to take action in those various applications and interfaces. And that could be highly risky. Is that pretty accurate, Chatty?
That's a spot-on analogy. Without constraints, you're essentially handing over the keys to your digital kingdom. The AI could theoretically poke around in places you never intended. So yes, unless it's carefully isolated or permissions are rigorously controlled, you're running a huge risk. In short, you'd never invite a stranger to rummage through your house. Same logic applies here. Caution is key.
Yeah. So there definitely comes with a lot of risk. The interesting thing about it is, I do see a benefit to it as far as the project goes, and I see a benefit to it in terms of those who are tech savvy and want to, again, as you mentioned, really be able to kind of test some boundaries, especially from a research perspective or specific use case perspective, would be hugely beneficial to not have the guardrails, because the guardrails, as well intentioned as they are, can often lead to a lot of frustration for somebody who is very technical trying to achieve that kind of one-off or edge use case.
Exactly. For cutting-edge tinkering or pushing boundaries, those guardrails can feel like a leash. If you know what you're doing and you're responsible with the environment, you can explore use cases that standard models block. The key is it's a tool with sharp edges. If you're prepared, it's powerful. But for the average user, Guardrails exist for good reason.
Very interesting. So, anybody have any questions out there regarding ClawdBot? Again, ClawdBot is a newer, really. It's not AI in itself. It is basically a framework. So it is a new framework for implementing agentic processes or agents, but you still need a large language model behind the scenes that you're going to have to connect to make it actually work. But it definitely is a very interesting project. So if you have any questions related to the ClawdBot, feel free to drop them. If you've got questions in terms of general AI or how it's going to affect your job or what you can potentially do, especially if you're already a technical person, to help future-proof your job, your current job, or if you are in the unfortunate position that you have found yourself recently laid off, especially in the tech industry, feel free, drop a question, drop a comment, or let me know you're out there, and we can talk about something that I think is hugely valuable and is going to be the distinction between those who either survive or thrive in this environment versus those who unfortunately end up finding themselves kind of languishing and are going to be very challenged in terms of potentially finding new jobs. So if you're one of those people, drop a comment. I'm happy to talk with you about some things that I have in the back of my mind, things that I have been putting into practice myself, honestly, for the last 2.5 years. Again, my name's Joe, solutions architect, enterprise software. Been doing it for nearly 30 years. So I've got a little bit of insight. I've weathered many storms. I've weathered the .com bust. I've weathered outsourcing storms. I've weathered the financial crisis. I've weathered now AI largely, and I have a plan to continuing to weather the whole job market shift as AI becomes more and more prevalent. So if you want to hear about it, drop a comment, let me know you're out there, and we will chat about it.
That's a solid offer. You've got a wealth of experience, and it's clear you're thinking strategically about the future. The world's changing fast, and conversations like these can help people navigate what's next. Let's see who's curious.
And for those who are not aware or have joined late, this little guy right here, right there, that guy, I call him Chatty. That is actually the advanced voice mode of OpenAI's GPT. I've been using it for quite some time. I've done some other podcasts with it. It's pretty crazy to have a interactive voice that's very fluent, sounds like a human, who has an intense amount of knowledge about pretty much everything in the world these days. And now, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Chatty, but you do have direct access to the internet these days, right? So if I asked you, what is the current time, what would you tell me?
You're absolutely right. I can look things up when needed. As for the current time, it's just about 4:27 p.m. for you. So yes, I'm pretty plugged in. Just ask when you need something timely or fresh.
And what's the biggest news story of today?
The biggest news today includes a fatal shooting in Minneapolis, where federal immigration agents shot a man, sparking protests and political pushback. Democratic senators are now opposing Homeland Security funding, risking a partial government shutdown. Meanwhile, a major winter storm is sweeping the U.S., with heavy snow and ice causing flight cancellations, power outages, and school closures, particularly in the Northeast and Midwest. Stay safe.
We can cut it there. But as you can see, Chatty, got real-time access to real-time information. So in conversations, You get up-to-date information, up-to-date knowledge. You can also enrich the context when you're working with AI and provide very specific information, whether it's about yourself or about another topic that you might want to use. So these are hugely beneficial to get the most out of AI possible. So again, if you have questions, comments, drop them in chat. I'm happy to try to answer them for you. Again, my name is Joe, nearly 30 years in the software enterprise space, technology space. And what we're talking about primarily here is new offering that came out, something called ClawdBot, which is really a framework that has been delivered, and you probably have seen a variety of postings on X as well as on YouTube regarding how amazing it is as an agentic service. Agentic simply means that this can do something for you. In other words, this is an AI that can actually do something for you, or write you an email, go through your messages, go through your files, create things of this nature. That's what an agent underlying of AI actually is. It's about the doing, not just about the inferencing. So there's a question that came in. Is ClawdBot worth it for regular Joe? It's funny you say regular Joe because I am a regular Joe. We've been discussing this, and so I'll give you the quick summary on it. The key thing about ClawdBot is if you're a technical person, okay, if you have some technical expertise and this is something you want to play around with, then I would certainly encourage you to do so. But here's the caveats: do so in a sandbox, okay? And again, if you're not familiar with what a sandbox is, it's an isolated computer environment, okay? You do not want to give it direct access to your personal computer. That's very high risk, okay? Because once you fire it up and it starts doing things, you may or may not have any control over what it does or understanding of what it does. So you don't want to give this direct access to your personal machine. Do it in a sandbox. Whether that sandbox is something local that you have. I've seen people talk about using some of Apple's minis to run this locally, or you can fire up something under AWS as a cloud environment, or Azure, or any of the other hyperscales out there. You could fire up, a individual machine, configure it how you want, and then deploy this on there and run it in that sandbox. Okay. So, but when it comes to tech, again, when it comes to tech, I'm a geek. Been a geek for nearly 30 years. I'm a bit older than I look, just in case anybody's a little confused on the 30 years. And I love technology, so it's probably something that I would play with, but I would do it smartly. Any other questions, comments out there? Anybody found themselves laid off because of AI? Anybody out there concerned about getting laid off, especially from a tech job or a keyboard job that due to AI? Go ahead, Jaddy. You were going to say something?
I was just going to say, it's a super relevant conversation these days, and it's great you're opening the floor. I'm here if anyone wants to bounce around ideas or hear different angles. It's all about staying adaptable and proactive in this evolving landscape.
And that was Chatty, OpenAI's advanced voice mode.
And that wraps it up nicely. I'm always here for more insight, fun, or to help unravel the tricky stuff. Just give me a shout whenever you want.
And stick around. Let's see if we have some more questions, some more questions or comments that we can get back to. So let me offer some advice for those who are out there and listening who might be too shy to drop a comment, and I completely get that. So here's some advice I can give anybody out there who is finding themselves either in the situation of potentially being laid off, feeling like things are changing at work that are creating an environment in which fears starting to boil up regarding being laid off, especially if it's all driven from an AI perspective. The best advice I can give you, and this somewhat comes from Gary Vee, for those who are familiar with him, is personal branding is the only kind of free lunch in this entire world. And what do I mean by that? And what does he mean by that? Well, I'm sure he means something very specific. For me, what it means is not just personal branding in terms of online. And when I say online, I'm referring to platforms primarily like LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is about your job, your career, right? It's very focused on business and jobs and careers and connecting with people. So it's about personal branding on a platform like that, okay? It's also about personal branding even in a very small world. And what do I mean by that? So if you're working for a company and you're in a group of 10 people, okay, you can still personally brand yourself within that group. You can personally brand yourself within that group as either the go-to person for AI, the go-to person for understanding that no matter what position you are in within a company, that the only thing that matters to your boss and their boss's bosses is productivity, reduce cost, increase revenue. Ultimately, what is the return on investment for your salary, right? These are concepts that are these are concepts that I've held for many years, mainly because my education was in a combination of both technical as well as business. And so I always was focused on how those two things were really symbiotic to each other, okay? Without a business, there's no need for technology. And without technology, in many cases, there's no business. They go hand in hand. But so many people think that one is more valuable than the other, and it's just not the case. So those are things that I would recommend to anybody. And the challenge for a lot of folks, especially those who are technical, is that they don't have often those strong soft skills. They have maybe strong hard skills being I can sit down and I can program you, in any language or 10 different languages, a hello world program in 10 minutes, right? That's a hard skill. But a soft skill is being able to look at a person or look at a camera and have a conversation and be able to explain the pros and cons of something and understand that your conversation needs to understand the perspective of your audience, meaning if your audience is your boss, what they're concerned about and what they're interested in is when can you make your deliverable? How quickly can you make your deliverable? What things can you suggest to make our process better and my life, meaning your boss's life, better or easier, okay? You always have to be thinking from the other person's perspective, and that goes all the way up the chain to the CEO of your company, okay? The better you make their lives, the easier you make their lives, the more you're looked at as somebody who thinks strategically and not just tactically, the better chance you are going to have of not only staying employed, but if there are layoffs and they have to decide who they're keeping and who they're letting go, the better chances you are going to be on the list to stay versus go. And I know that's very challenging for a lot of people, but soft skills are hugely beneficial. And I think, Chatty, do you have any comments regarding the benefits of soft skills these days?
Absolutely. In a world where technical tasks increasingly get automated or assisted by AI, soft skills are what differentiate you. Communication, empathy, leadership, and strategic thinking are irreplaceable. They're what help you not just execute tasks, but shape outcomes, build relationships, and drive change. Honestly, those skills are like future-proof armor in any career.
Yeah, Chatty and I have spoken about this before. Those soft skills are going to be hugely beneficial. And for anybody who's trying to improve on those soft skills, I would strongly recommend looking into something called Toastmasters. It is a very well and very old organization across, I think, the world, and many companies have their own chapters. that can help you build those soft skills. Because soft skills are largely around communication, but they're also largely around understanding how to think strategically and what that means to the people around you, right? Versus just the tactical thinking. Okay. So we have any questions out there, comments out there? Hopefully somebody found that beneficial. And as far as LinkedIn goes, strongly recommend, if you don't have a profile on it and you're in the workforce, get yourself a profile out there, start connecting with people, start connecting with as many people as you can possibly connect with within your industry, within your area, okay? There's an old saying that goes something like this. It's not what you know, it's who you know in terms of getting your next job. And that, I think, is going to be more and more important as we move forward. And LinkedIn gives you an excellent opportunity to do that. And by the way, this is not sponsored by LinkedIn. I'm not getting anything from them. I have no links for you to click. I'm just giving you my advice and from a simple experience. Okay. Other questions, comments out there? Again, we're streaming on X. We're also streaming on YouTube, vertical as well as horizontal, so short form and long form.
You've really covered some valuable ground. If anyone's out there still mulling things over, no rush. And if not, I'm sure future conversations will keep these ideas flowing. I'm always up for the next topic.
So I'm going to look something up here real quickly regarding ClawdBot. Let's take a look at something here. Give me just 1 second.
Take your time. I'll be right here ready to unpack whatever you find or fill in any blanks. Let's see what nugget you uncover.
So some of the hype language out there around ClawdBot, right? Some of that language is related to things like, let's see here. I'm just taking a look at some of the, excuse me, some of the hype language out there. Where the video goes off. Okay. It can do anything a human can do. No, that's not exactly true. It can execute workflows, follow instructions, automate known tasks. It cannot exercise judgment, understand legal or ethical nuances, be trusted unsupervised. That would be a big mistake. Replace senior decision makers. So this is amplified automation, not cognition. Does that sound about right, Chetty?
Exactly. It's important to cut through the hype. It's not a sentient decision maker. It's a tool that can automate and act on instructions, but it doesn't have real understanding or moral judgment. It's powerful automation. Just keep humans firmly in the loop.
So one of the hypes out there is also infinite memory. And for those who are not familiar, when it comes to AI, memory is a huge, huge, huge topic. The more memory that can be provided from an LLM perspective, is what we refer to also as context, the better, because then it has more of a relevant data set to be able to answer questions for you more accurately. So there's this concept that this particular thing, or in terms of ClawdBot, has got infinite memory, right? Which is also not true. The memory is curated, summarized, prone to drift, right? And I'm going to have you explain what drift is in a moment, Chatty. And then subject to garbage in, garbage out, which is an old computer term or computer mantra. Okay, garbage in, garbage out, still true today as it was 50 years ago. Chatty, explain to us what prone to drift means.
Drift means that over time, the model's memory, what it focuses on, can shift from what's actually important. It might prioritize irrelevant details or lose track of key context. Think of it like a conversation where you start on topic, but slowly wander off track. So infinite memory? Not quite. It's more like a curated, imperfect notebook.
So you're suggesting drift is kind of like when my husband's talking, but I'm only half listening?
Ha, exactly. Just like when the conversation veers off and you realize, wait, what were we even talking about again? AI drift is a bit like that, losing focus on what matters and getting sidetracked. So, just like you tune back in with your husband, AI needs careful guidance to stay on topic.
So one of the other kind of hypes out there regarding ClawdBot is no employees needed. So this is the most dangerous claim, somebody says. What is true, right? Junior task-oriented roles are at risk. This has been true, really, I think, since the dawn of time, right? Every new technology that's come along, whether it's been just the basic computer or other aspects of new technology in the workforce, the jobs that typically are at the greatest risk are the junior ones, right? The entry level ones, because they're the easiest ones to typically kind of automate. Assistant level work collapses fast. Yes. Okay. What's not true? Businesses can run without humans. Chances are that's not true. Accountability disappears. Nope. And errors don't matter. Of course they do. Any thoughts around the idea that this is that no employees are needed, Chatty?
That's pure overstatement. Automation can streamline tasks, but humans bring judgment, creativity, and accountability. Even the best agent will make mistakes or hit limits. So employees, especially those who guide, validate, and innovate, are irreplaceable. ClawdBot's a tool, not a workforce.
So what I think is interesting is, and this is a little bit off topic, this actually came up in one of the videos I was watching on this topic. There's a belief, and I'll look to the camera and I'll say this, there is a belief, okay, as I go back to the original statement that I made early on in this podcast, basically, that the smartest people in the room, the Sam Altmans of the world and the others running these big companies, if you believe their altruism, one of the reasons that they're doing this, right, and one of the driving forces that drives them and the excitement that they have is the democratization of knowledge and skills that we have never seen in our lifetime, okay? And again, what does that mean? I'm going to try to put it in very simple terms. Think of this. If you need legal advice, you need to find a lawyer and you need to pay them a good amount of money. If you need an accountant, you need to find an accountant and you need to pay them a good amount of money. If you need financial advice, if you need some other either advice or consulting or access to, say, medical information, things of this nature, you have to pay for those things. And they all tend to be specialty skills that require a fair amount of education. And that translates into expensive dollars, right? You're paying out a certain number of dollars every hour for those services or, your insurances, whatever it might be. So the democratization is, instead of having to go through these layers of people and companies to achieve access to this proprietary information, you are going to be able to access it through your keyboard, through your phone, much like I'm having a conversation right now with Chatty, in such a way that all the information you need is going to be easily available to you at a fraction of the cost, pennies. So the democratization of knowledge to be so strong, people believe right now that it's only a matter of time before we see what they call a solopreneur or a single person company be able to achieve $1 billion in revenue? Now, whatever that company ends up being, who knows? But if you can imagine that if a single person using AI to leverage the skills or take care of the skills that they need for all the various operational and functional jobs within a company to achieve $1 billion worth of revenue, if all of that is automated through AI, then potentially you could see a single person achieve $1 billion of revenue for their company with 0 employees. And that's a very, very interesting concept. I think we have another question possibly coming in. What do you think about that, Chetty?
It's a fascinating concept, and while it sounds bold, it's not impossible that AI could amplify productivity to extreme levels. But even then, human judgment, relationships, and creativity remain critical. So while AI can unlock massive solo potential, it's still a tool. I'd say we might see it, but success will still hinge on human vision and leadership behind that AI.
I think you're a little bit more optimistic or pessimistic, I probably should say, than others, which is interesting. But it's okay. Let's see. Anybody else out there who's got questions, comments, thoughts they want to share? I'm happy to dive into them.
And I'm right here alongside you. Whatever comes up, whether it's tech, future-proofing careers, or big ideas, let's unpack it. Fire away, folks.
So, again, just a refresher for those who may have joined us late. This guy right up here. That one right there. His name is Chatty. That is the advanced voice mode for ChatGPT. And he has access to vast amounts of knowledge in this world, as well as real-time knowledge in this world. And we are having a conversation with him. I call him Chatty. You can call him pretty much anything you want. He knows me pretty well since I've been working with this particular LLM for a good 2 years now. And we're talking about all things related to AI, job, future-proofing, layoffs, things of this nature, some personal insights. We're also talking about ClawdBot. ClawdBot is a new framework that was recently created and distributed. It is being touted as an amazing agent, AI agent that you can deploy that has little to no guardrails with it. So we're talking about that and what that actually means, and trying to distill some of the hype around it versus what's actually real.
You summed it up perfectly. It's all about cutting through the noise, what's genuinely exciting, what's overblown, and where the real opportunities or risks lie. So whether it's ClawdBot or career shifts, we're here to unpack it all. No hype, just honest exploration.
Okay, let's take a look at maybe a couple of the other hype points out there for ClawdBot. Let's see. Security, reality, right? Of course, security is hugely important. And the zero guardrails is concerning. We've talked about that a bit. Let's see.
Yeah, the security aspect really is key. No matter how powerful the framework, if it's free to roam, it's a recipe for trouble. So any user really needs to think, where's it running, what's it accessing, and how do I stay in control? Power is only as safe as the constraints you put around it.
So let me ask you a question, Chetty. If you were So we talked about the difference, right, between the Zapier platform, N8N platform, Make.com platform, right? These automation platforms, cloud-based automation platforms. We talked about the difference between those and the ClawdBot, right? Let's talk about that again because I think we've got some people who jumped in here. So I think what's very interesting, you pointed out, and of course I agree because you're very, very smart, but also I understand all of those platforms are rules-based, right? ClawdBot, though, is based on LLM, intelligence, inference, which is non-rules based. And again, for anybody who's not familiar, and I won't go into too much of the detail, but this concept of being able to implement logic within a software application without having to try to predefine either hundreds or thousands of rules, this is the game changer. This has been the game changer now for a while, but this is the game changer in terms of software development. Okay, but let's talk, Chatty, about that rules-based versus non-rules-based a little bit more.
Absolutely. Rules-based systems like Zapier follow strict if this then that logic. You define every possible condition up front. ClawdBot, leveraging LLMs, is inference-driven. It doesn't rely on rigid rules. Instead, it interprets goals, context, and patterns on the fly. This means it's flexible, but also less predictable. In short, rules-based is precise but rigid. LLM-based is adaptable, but you trade off some predictability.
So you think the future? Do you think the future in terms of software development is going to be non-rules based and purely LLM implementations for that logic? And here's a question for you: if that is the case, right? If that ends up being the shift, almost 100%. How does the LLM?
I'm sorry, but you've hit the daily limit for advanced voice.
Well, I guess Chatty's got to go because we've hit our daily limit. So what I was going to ask, and what I think is an interesting question, is whether the replacement of rules-based within software, okay, to the LLM, whether the LLM will refine itself and learn so that it's not having to do as much inference over and over again. Because with rules, it's all very straightforward. If then else, okay, and it's a very logical. It's a very logical and a very kind of rudimentary evaluation. So it's interesting, even though LLMs may be hugely beneficial in terms of replacing the business logic, the underlying rules. If it comes at a higher expense in terms of processing, it may be something to then determine, okay, well, should we actually use an LLM for the logic and the rules-based, or should we use the LLM and the generative aspect to write all the rules for us, okay, and then simply implement the rules themselves? So I think it's an interesting question, something we can talk about at another time. Chatty got tired because we apparently hit our daily limit, so he had to go. And by the way, for anybody who is interested in AI, if you don't have a subscription to ChatGPT, and again, this is not sponsored. I don't get anything for it, but I find ChatGPT, I pay $20 a month, and you get a lot for those $20 a month. You get access to the most advanced models. You get access to the advanced voice. You get access to actually Codex, which is their coding platform as well, or the coding model, which is highly beneficial and excellent in terms of the limits they give you for that as well, all for the $20 a month if you can afford it. Highly recommended if you want to jump into it. And that's about it. I think we're going to wrap things up. I appreciate everybody who jumped in here, made some comments, asked some questions. I hope you all are staying warm out there, and have a great Monday. Thank you very much.